A truly chilling case of manipulation and control, one that reads like a script for a psychological thriller. Meet Lawrence Larry Ray, a man who turned deception into an art form, transforming innocent lives into his own personal nightmare. Larry Ray, born Lawrence Greco in 1959 in the Tough Bay Ridge neighborhood of Brooklyn, had a childhood riddled with instability. His parents divorced when he was young, and his mother's subsequent marriage to Gordon Ray gave him his new last name. But the troubled past didn't end there. Larry's attempt to join the Air Force in 1981 lasted only 19 days before an unexplained discharge. Not one to be deterred, Larry managed to find his way into Wall Street as a stock trader despite lacking a college degree, a real testament to his uncanny ability to charm and deceive. Larry's life was a patchwork of questionable ventures. From insurance and gambling to construction and even running a nightclub in New Jersey, he reinvented himself with ease. His most outrageous claims, that he had worked as a clandestine agent recovering Stinger missiles and working with the CIA in Russia. While these stories were pure fantasy, his ability to weave convincing tales was undeniable. In 1988, Larry married Teresa, his high school sweetheart, and they had 2 daughters, Talia and Ava. During the late 80s and 90s, Larry seemed to be rubbing elbows with high-profile figures like former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev and New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He even facilitated a meeting between Giuliani and Gorbachev and was close enough to former NYPD Commissioner Bernie Kerik to serve as his best man at his wedding in 1998. But when Larry found himself embroiled in a mafia-related pump-and-dump scheme, Kerik's refusal to help led to a bitter fallout. Ray was indicted in 2000, and Kerik's refusal to intervene left Larry seething. By 2003, Larry pleaded guilty to securities fraud and was sentenced to 5 years of probation. His obsession with revenge was unrelenting. He launched a relentless campaign against Kerik, becoming a cooperating witness in an investigation that contributed to Kerik's imprisonment. But Larry's manipulative tendencies didn't stop there. In 2004, as he wrestled with his legal troubles, his wife filed for divorce, accusing him of physical violence. Ray managed to twist the narrative, convincing his daughters that their mother's accusations were nothing but lies. Larry's psychological evaluation during the custody proceedings revealed a disturbing portrait. The evaluator found it literally impossible to assess Larry in the usual clinical way due to his overwhelming ability to manipulate and control every situation, including the psychological interview. The evaluator described him as calculating, manipulative, and hostile, beneath a veneer of charm. Diagnosed with narcissistic and histrionic personality disorders, Larry Ray embodied the very essence of psychological manipulation. The true horror of Larry Ray's story is not just in his criminal activities, but in his ability to warp reality for those around him. He didn't just con people out of money, he fundamentally altered their perceptions, isolating them and turning them into his personal puppets. His story serves as a chilling reminder of how powerful and dangerous manipulation can be when wielded by a master con artist. But what happens when a manipulative con artist's influence seeps into the lives of innocent young people? Enter his daughter, Talia Ray, who was caught in the crossfire of her father's deceitful schemes. In 2007, Larry's legal troubles came to a head when he violated his probation related to securities fraud and was incarcerated. Despite the alarming psychological evaluations revealing signs of pseudologia fantastica, a condition marked by habitual lying, Larry managed to retain shared custody of his children. This chaotic mix of deceit and legal issues set the stage for a troubling story that would unfold over the next few years. Fast forward to 2009, when Talia Ray, now a student at Sarah Lawrence College in Bronxville, New York, was living in Slonim Woods 9, a vibrant dormitory known for its close-knit community. Talia quickly bonded with her dorm mates, but her obsession with her father was hard to ignore. To her, Larry was a misunderstood hero, wrongfully imprisoned and a victim of a vast conspiracy against him. Talia frequently recounted tales of her father's supposed heroism. According to her, Larry had bravely fought corrupt officials as a government operative and was now wrongfully imprisoned due to powerful enemies. She even hinted that Larry would soon be released and needed a place to stay.
Talia is obsessed with Larry. He is the perfect dad ever, and he's been wrongfully convicted.
Though her dorm mates found this request unusual, they agreed to let him stay temporarily, thinking it would be a short-term arrangement. Come September 2010, Larry Ray moved into Talia's dorm room. By then, the dorm was home to several distinct personalities. Santos Rosario, Talia's former boyfriend with ties to a Bronx travel agency, Daniel Levin, an introverted, aspiring writer from New Jersey, Claudia Drury, a creative and outgoing student from Los Angeles, and Isabella Pollock, Talia's new best friend from San Antonio. Larry, at 50 years old, quickly embedded himself into the group's daily life. He played the role of the benevolent father figure, cooking steak dinners, ordering expensive takeout, and regaling them with stories of his alleged past as a CIA operative and Marine. Larry's charm was undeniable. He took on a paternal role, screening movies, offering advice, and pushing his self-improvement philosophy he dubbed Quest for Potential. But the facade of charm soon crumbled. Larry began holding therapy sessions with the students, during which he would probe their deepest fears and insecurities. He used this personal information to manipulate them, convincing them that they were flawed and needed his guidance to improve. As the fall 2010 semester drew to a close, Larry's focus narrowed in on Talia's best friend, Isabella Pollock. He began sleeping in her room every night under the guise of supervising her and helping with her psychological issues. Larry's seemingly altruistic actions masked a sinister intent. He was exerting control and dominance over Isabella, using his psychological manipulation to entrench himself further into her life. The dynamics of Larry Ray's manipulation were deeply disturbing. His ability to charm, control, and deceive his daughter's friends illustrates the dark power of psychological manipulation. It's a stark reminder of how a charismatic but dangerous individual can infiltrate and disrupt lives, leaving a trail of confusion and trauma. Winter break was supposed to be a time of joy and relaxation, but for Isabella Pollock, it became a nightmare orchestrated by Larry Ray. Ray convinced Isabella's parents that if she came home for the holidays, she would end her life. With her family cut off, Isabella became increasingly dependent on Ray. In the winter of 2010, Ray whisked Talia and Isabella away to the Upper East Side, staying at the apartment of his businessman friend, Lee Chen. This wasn't just any apartment. It had one bedroom where Ray, his daughter, and Isabella all slept together. Talk about an unsettling living arrangement. Ray pulled out all the stops during their stay, treating everyone to lavish dinners, often paying with cash straight from his backpack. He didn't just control their meals, he dictated their every move, from what they ate to where they went. It was all part of his sinister plan to isolate and dominate them. As the spring semester rolled around in January 2011, the group returned to their dorm, and it became clear that Ray's influence was taking hold. Parents began to notice disturbing changes in their children's behavior. Daniel Levin's father, for example, observed a shift in his son's demeanor, something that felt eerily like a cult-like dynamic. Things got even more alarming when Isabella's aunt and mother visited New York for dinner with Isabella and Ray. Throughout the evening, Ray dominated the conversation, leaving Isabella to defer to him. Meanwhile, Claudia Drury became fixated on Ray's strict eating and exercise regimen. Her parents grew concerned when they noticed her unhealthy obsession with losing weight. These concerns weren't just idle worries. Claudia's and Daniel's parents decided to take action, bringing their fears to the attention of the school administrators. The dean was shocked to learn that Ray was living in Slonim Woods 9, but he was also frustrated by his lack of power. Parents were allowed to visit their children in their dorms, so the dean felt helpless to intervene. Ray, ever the manipulator, preemptively moved out of the dorm to avoid further scrutiny. By July 2011, he was back at Li Chen's apartment, this time with an expanded group: Talia, Isabella, Daniel, Claudia, and Santos. Again, Ray shared the bedroom with Talia and Isabella, while the others slept on a king-sized mattress set up in the living room. Away from the watchful eyes of campus, Ray's control tightened. He created a self-contained world where the outside was completely cut off. It didn't matter that they were in the heart of Manhattan. Inside that apartment, they were living in a warped reality of Ray's making. Each morning, Ray played a specific song to wake everyone up, reinforcing his role as their leader. He preached about maximizing potential and critiqued their every move. His nightly sessions were grueling, involving intense self-analysis and group discussions that often led to sleep deprivation. Ray's narcissism reached new heights as he started documenting their daily activities. Armed with his phone, he recorded videos of the students, capturing every action. It was all part of his egotistical need to have proof of his supposed accomplishments and control. As September 2011 approached, Talia returned to Sarah Lawrence College, but the grip of Larry Ray's manipulation remained a looming shadow over her and her friends. This dark chapter in their lives illustrates the terrifying power of psychological control and how a master manipulator can distort reality to maintain dominance. By the time autumn 2011 rolled around, Larry Ray's influence was reaching new heights, and the group of students in his clutches was growing. Enter Ivan Goicoechea, Talia's ex-boyfriend who saw Ray as a heroic mentor. Ray exploited Ivan's admiration, pushing him to enlist in the Marines. When Ivan returned from Afghanistan grappling with PTSD, he moved into Ray's Upper East Side apartment, believing Ray could provide the guidance he desperately needed.
He's helped me through a lot of, a lot of emotional battles that I had, directing me and guiding me, I should say. He was there for me to help me sort of get my bearings again when I came back to civilian society.
Iban became one of Ray's most devoted followers, often seen as Ray's personal driver and assistant. But Ray's dominance wasn't limited to charming his new recruits. As his control over the students deepened, so did his methods. He began using physical force, berating and humiliating them, all under the guise of helping them grow. It was psychological warfare cloaked in a facade of self-improvement. Santos Rosario, another member of Ray's circle, brought his sisters Yalitza and Felicia into the fold. Yalitza, a freshman at Columbia University, and Felicia, a Harvard medical student, initially fell for Ray's charm during phone conversations, but the facade soon cracked. Ray convinced Felicia to leave her prestigious medical residency and move into his apartment, where she became one of his girlfriends. Yalitza, following in her sister's footsteps, joined the group soon after. As if things weren't chaotic enough, Li Chen, the apartment's owner, grew alarmed at the state of his property. Ray had taken it upon himself to order renovations without permission. Chen's attempts to evict Ray through New York County Civil Court were stymied by a lengthy legal process, giving Ray ample time to continue his manipulative ways. The environment in the apartment became increasingly oppressive. Felicia and Yalitza, who initially enjoyed the group dynamic, soon found themselves breaking down under Ray's control. Felicia, pushed to her breaking point, attempted to take her own life.
Can I get up now? Stop talking.
Miraculously, she was stopped, but Ray managed to convince her to stay, using his manipulative tactics to keep her under his control. In the spring of 2013, Daniel Levin decided to distance himself from the group. Despite the horrors he had witnessed, he remained silent, fearing Ray's potential retaliation. During this period, Ray took Santos, Yalitza, Felicia, Isabella, and Claudia Drury to his stepfather's home in Pinehurst, North Carolina. There, he subjected them to grueling manual labor, repairing and renovating the property. Ray's control was total. He locked the fridge, dictating when and what the students could eat. They worked long hours in the rain, using unfamiliar machinery. To add insult to injury, Ray manipulated them into believing they had damaged his property and equipment, forcing them to pay exorbitant repair costs. He interrogated them relentlessly, recording their coerced confessions of fabricated misdeeds. Ray's tactics were straight out of a psychological horror script. He used intense pressure to brainwash his victims, making them confess to things they hadn't done until they either believed the lies or said they did. Santos and his sisters were coerced into telling their parents they owed around $20,000 for repairs, convincing them to hand over their life savings. Claudia was similarly duped, forced into working as a sex worker to repay a fabricated debt.
Things, destroying property.
I don't want to.
Don't want to what?
I don't want to damage things.
Ray's ability to manipulate and control was staggering. His charm masked a ruthless agenda, turning promising students into financial and emotional wrecks. His reign of terror was a stark reminder of how vulnerability can be exploited by those who know how to play the mind games. Starting in 2014, Claudia's life became a twisted nightmare. Imagine working 7 days a week, seeing up to 5 clients a day in various Manhattan hotels, all while being controlled by a ruthless manipulator. That was Claudia's reality under Ray's iron grip. He dictated every move she made, pocketing the substantial earnings she raked in. Meanwhile, Isabella was stuck in a dark role as Ray's bookkeeper, tracking Claudia's money and helping Ray launder it. Fast forward to 2016, and things took a dramatic turn. Santos and Yalitza finally broke free from Ray's clutches. Lee Chen, the apartment's owner, finally managed to evict Ray after years of legal battles. Ray's group bounced from apartment to apartment before settling into a new place in New Jersey, thanks to a friend named Scott Mueller. But things were far from over. By October 2018, Claudia had hit rock bottom. She confided in a client about the hellish grip Ray had on her, revealing that he was blackmailing her. When Ray found out, he stormed into her hotel room, unleashing a brutal attack. Claudia endured a night of sheer horror. Ray suffocated her with a plastic bag, beat her, and berated her while she was bound to a chair. Even after the attack, Claudia was too terrified to leave. She cleaned up the mess and continued working the next day, fearing Ray's wrath. Claudia lived in a state of constant fear, her every action driven by the need to keep Ray happy.
She lived in constant fear of Larry punishing her, and it seemed like almost everything she did during that time period was done in order to keep him happy.
But hope came from an unexpected place. The same client who had heard Claudia's confession provided her with a train ticket, offering her a chance to escape her tormentor. In those harrowing 4 years, Claudia had earned a staggering $2.5 million, all of which was ruthlessly stolen by Ray. Isabella, Felicia, and Iban remained under Ray's influence, but cracks in the facade were starting to show. In early 2019, journalist Ezra Marcus began digging into the unsettling rumors surrounding Lawrence Ray. What he uncovered was nothing short of horrifying. Marcus found a disturbing website filled with videos of Ray's victims making coerced confessions. This discovery led him to interview former students who revealed a decade of manipulation and abuse. Marcus's exposé, The Stolen Kids of Sarah Lawrence, published in New York Magazine in April 2019, brought the nightmare into the national spotlight. The article spurred law enforcement into action. FBI agents quickly tracked down the victims and gathered crucial evidence, including cell phone records and emails that showcased Ray's control over them. The investigation reached its climax with a dramatic raid on Ray's residence in Piscataway, New Jersey, on February 11, 2020. Federal agents and NYPD officers stormed the house, arresting Ray and seizing a treasure trove of incriminating evidence. They found dozens of hard drives, cell phones, laptops, and handwritten ledgers detailing Ray's illicit activities. The same recordings Ray had used to control and humiliate his victims now formed the backbone of a comprehensive indictment. U.S. Attorney Jeff Berman addressed the media, announcing the charges against Ray: trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, extortion, and money laundering.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Berman, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. Today, we announce criminal charges against this man, Lawrence Ray, who for nearly a decade and abused young women and men emotionally, physically, and for his own financial gain.
For nearly a decade, Berman stated, Lawrence Ray preyed on young women and men, exploiting them emotionally and physically for his own financial gain. Tragically, the story didn't end on a high note. Upon learning of Ray's arrest, Ibin Goycochea, who had admired Ray as a mentor, took his own life. Unable to reconcile the man he looked up to being exposed as a criminal, Ibn fell victim to his own despair, convinced that the world was conspiring against him. In March 2022, Lawrence Ray's trial kicked off, and it was nothing short of a courtroom drama. Picture this: recordings of Ray's own abusive acts played out for all to hear. The court was shown just how Ray extorted around $1 million from 5 victims and forced Claudia into years of grueling work, earning him over $2.5 million. The details were harrowing. Ray used knives and physical torment to extract false confessions from his victims. Santos, one of Ray's longest-suffering victims, described a decade of absolute misery that was so severe it drove him to contemplate suicide on a daily basis. Now, let's talk about Ray's defense. In a final twist of delusion, his lawyers argued that Ray genuinely believed his victims were part of a criminal plot against him, orchestrated by none other than Bernie Kerik, a former New York City police commissioner. Yes, you heard that right. Ray's defense tried to paint him as a misunderstood hero. But let's be real, the evidence against him was overwhelming. After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted Ray on all 15 counts. Fast forward to January 20th, 2023, and the courtroom drama reached its climax. Judge Louis Lyman sentenced Lawrence Ray to a staggering 60 years in federal prison, calling his crimes an act of evil genius and particular cruelty. And get this, Ray, true to form, showed no remorse. Instead, he complained about his prison conditions. That's right, the man who had tormented so many was now griping about his own discomfort. But the courtroom drama didn't end with Ray. Isabella Pollock, who played a significant role in aiding Ray's decade-long scheme, was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. After her term, she'll also be under 3 years of supervised release. On the other hand, Talia Ray, Ray's daughter, who initially introduced him to her roommates, was named as an unindicted co-conspirator. Despite her role in the whole mess, her lifelong conditioning under her father's influence led the court to spare her from criminal charges. In the aftermath, Ray's victims began to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. Victim impact statements during the trial revealed the profound and lasting trauma inflicted by Ray's decade of torment. But there is hope and healing on the horizon. Daniel Levin, one of the victims, has channeled his experiences into a memoir titled Slonim Woods 9, giving readers a deep dive into his harrowing journey. Claudia, another victim, has found solace in reconnecting with her family, slowly piecing together the life that Ray had so brutally torn apart. Felicia has shared her journey with the world, and her courage is making waves. By speaking out, she and her siblings are not only reclaiming their voices, but also providing a beacon of hope for others who might be going through similar struggles. They're turning their pain into power, showing that even after the darkest of times, light can be found. Felicia's reflections are poignant. She's been through so much, but now she feels like a new person.
I'm thinking a lot about how we can take this experience and try to do the most good with it and create community for other survivors.
I feel like a new person. I have a family. I have a past. I have a future, which I didn't have before. I had been trapped for so long, closed off from everyone. It feels like I'm coming out and there's light.
It's a powerful initiative that reflects their commitment to making a positive impact in the world. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comment section.